Welcome back, everyone. I'm here and I hope you're all doing well. Today, I've got some posts from our relationship advice and oh boy, this one is something else. As always, I'm going to read through the posts, give you my thoughts, and I hope you do the same in the comments down below. And without much further ado, let's jump right into it. This post is from David B, 1976, and the tagline is, "My girlfriend, 25F, admitted she slept with someone hours before agreeing to be exclusive. I, 26M, can't tell if I'm overreacting. What's the move here? My girlfriend of 2 years and I were recently having one of those drunk tell me something shocking conversations. Everything was lighthearted until she dropped something that completely rewrote the origin story of how we became a couple, something I've always held as a romantic and somewhat dramatic beginning. A little over a month into dating, I told her I wanted to be exclusive. Up to that point, everything between us, her behaviour, our connection, the way she talked about us, made me feel like she was on the same page. But during that conversation, she suddenly got overwhelmed, said she needed to leave, and basically walked out. I was confused and pretty upset. I went home thinking maybe that was it. A few hours later, she called, said she wanted to talk, and drove to my place. That night, outside my apartment in the rain, she told me she did want to be in a committed relationship, and that she had just needed time to meditate and collect her thoughts. I took it as a cinematic beginning to our relationship. That entire story changed during our recent drunk conversation. She told me that she didn't go home to reflect. She left to go have sex with a dude. Apparently she met this guy at a party the week before we started going out. They hooked up and the sex was apparently good enough that she had been hitting him up every few days. My girlfriend is usually pretty blunt, but this one hurt to hear, especially in context. According to her, when I brought up exclusivity, she suddenly realized that if she agreed on the spot, she wouldn't be able to sleep with him anymore without it being cheating. So she got up, left without an explanation, went to his place, and they had sex for a few hours to get it out of her system. Afterward, she drove straight to my place to officially start our relationship. She says this wasn't cheating because, technically speaking, we weren't exclusive yet. She also said she never felt guilty about it, but didn't say anything until now because she didn't want to ruin the mythology I'd built around our relationship origin story. A story that I loved bringing up whenever people ask us how we met. I honestly feel completely blindsided. Even if this wasn't cheating in the strictest technical sense, it feels like a massive betrayal. It was the fact that she effectively scheduled one last hookup before agreeing to be with me. It makes the beginning of our relationship feel tainted, and it makes me question how she views commitment and honesty. Okay, let me just sit with this for a second, because the way this man described the night, standing in the rain, her coming back, the cinematic moment, and now we found out that she'd just come straight from another man's bed. Like she literally scheduled a final hookup, drove over and said, "Yes, I want to be with you." That's not technically cheating. That's a deliberate decision. She made a choice. And the fact that she had zero guilt about it, that part might bother me more than the act itself. Let's look at the comments. Comment 1. Oof. At first I thought it was just poor timing on your part. Like you guys weren't exclusive, she was seeing other people, and you just unknowingly asked her to go exclusive after she had sex with someone else. And I usually err on the side of, well, you weren't exclusive, so you shouldn't be too hung up on it. But she left and went to go have sex with him one last time? Cheating or not, that's kind of fucked up. A guy asked her to be exclusive, whom she wanted to be exclusive with apparently, and her first thought was, let me go fuck that other guy one more time. That paints a horrible picture of her, if you ask me. And on top of that, she doesn't find what she did weird at all. Like she'd be perfectly fine if you had fucked someone else in that time when she went to go off and fuck someone else. I'd be tempted to ask her that to see her reaction. I don't blame you for this knowledge changing how you see her. I think I'd be in the same spot as you. Comment 2. After you proposed exclusivity, her first thoughts were about someone else. That alone is a painful revelation. Then she took off to act on those thoughts by being intimate with him. I understand why you'd feel hurt. Sucks, man. Sorry. Comment 3. Sorry, but my jaw dropped. I don't think I could hear that and continue the relationship. I don't really care about the technically not cheating part. Think about if you wanted to know immediately if she was a yes or no to being exclusive. Either she would have said no, because she really wanted that guy's dick, she effectively did this though by walking away, or she would have said yes, and continued thinking about that guy's dick. She was allowed to walk away and come back without you understanding what happened in between. The whole time thinking she was deliberating her feelings for you when she was actually fucking this guy. Yeah, that ellipsis is doing a lot of heavy lifting, because this commenter put it in a way that I hadn't even thought about. The entire time OP believed she was out there deciding if she loved him. She was sleeping with someone else. That's not a grey area. That's a gap between what he thought was happening and what actually happened. And that gap, that's the betrayal. Comment 4. Personally, I think that's pretty gross, and I'd want to immediately break up. She wanted to get in one last bang with a dude before the exclusive stuff. She should have told you that before you agreed to be exclusive. Instead, she lied to you and went to bang a dude while you thought she was reflecting. I would instantly break up with her. Comment 5. I've always hated the technically take on this. Why do we get into relationships? Because we recognize and agree that when we really like someone, it is heart-shattering when that person does things intimate with someone else. And we are agreeing that I like you and care about your feelings enough to put aside my own desires to not do that to you in trade for you doing the same for me. So flat and simple, she didn't actually give a fuck if it hurt you or not. She just cared about her getting off on her own desires in a way that made her feel less bad. It doesn't matter to her it hurt you. It doesn't matter to her if it should or shouldn't. What matters to her is because of her little loophole, it was perfectly fine for her to do it. And even now, it doesn't matter to her if it hurts you. She told you because your feelings don't matter as long as it works within her little rules. This is the one I think cuts the deepest, and I want to dwell on it for a moment because the commenter is pointing something out that goes beyond the act itself. It's about whose feelings matter in this relationship. She knew this would hurt him if he found out. And her response was essentially, well, technically it wasn't wrong, so your feelings aren't valid. Look, I'm not here to tell OP what to do, but I will say this. The question isn't really, was it cheating? The question is, do I feel safe with someone whose instinct at the moment I asked it to be mine was to go be with someone else first? That answer is deeply personal, but it's the right question to be asking. All right, moving on to story number 2. This post is from a deleted account on our relationship advice, and the tagline is, I, 27M, found pictures of my girlfriend, 23F, topless on the beach at night with strangers. A bit of background. My girlfriend and I have been together for 5 years. We have lived most of this time at a distance because both of us did periods of study abroad. Now we live in the same country, but different cities, about 2 or 3 hours of driving away from each other. We managed to spend together almost every weekend, and we were used to much bigger distances when we were living in different European nations, so the distance we have now is no big deal. I'm currently working in my hometown, which is her hometown too. She is still studying for her master's degree and will finish in 1 year. Recently, I got a job opportunity in her city and thought it would have been nice to work there for 1 year and stay together. I didn't previously plan to go there, but I was contacted for a position by an ex-colleague of mine, and I liked the company. She's renting a house with a male flatmate, and I suggested her to leave that house and rent a place with me instead. This was all just to test the ground as I wasn't even interviewed yet, but I wanted to talk to my girlfriend before that. She told me she is not ready to live together and wanted me to rent a separate place. She said that she would stay often at my place, but wanted to keep her own too. Given this reaction, I didn't want to move there anymore. Instead, she insisted that she wanted me to move, but in a separate house. This made no sense for me, because the job was nice, but nothing I couldn't find everywhere else, and my hometown is bigger and has more jobs in my field. The main reason I wanted to move was to stay with her. I told her that given that she wasn't ready to share an apartment with me, I would look for jobs in other cities and go where I could find a better opportunity, in my country or the neighbouring one. After we had this conversation, she left for 10 days to go on a vacation at sea with a friend. Okay, pause. I want to flag this because I think it matters. He's literally saying, I only considered moving for you. And her response is, come, but not with me. That's an odd ask. It's not the deal breaker of the century, but it does tell you something about where she sees this relationship heading. The fact, when she was on vacation, she partied every night and posted a lot of pictures where she was dancing and drinking. I was naturally a bit jealous, but I thought she was innocently having fun. I'm also on vacation by the sea, in a different place, where my family has a flat, and invited her here when her previous vacation was over. So 2 days ago, I went to pick her up at the airport and brought her here. The morning after, she was showing me pictures of her vacation on her phone, and while scrolling, she suddenly ends up on something she does not want me to see, and locks her phone in embarrassment. The only thing I saw in that moment was a picture of her leaning on a guy, and I thought that was what she didn't want me to see. At this point, I was angry, knowing she wanted to hide something from me. We stopped talking to each other for an hour, then she came to show me the pictures and apologized. She showed me the picture of her on the beach at night with 4 boys and another girl going for a midnight swim. All other people were wearing swimsuits, but she didn't have one, so she was with her underwear and no bra. She was wearing an open men's shirt, borrowed from one of the guys, with her tits out in the open. I didn't know the people in the picture. She says they are her friends' friends. I'm heartbroken since I saw that picture, and I feel like my entire life has crumbled to pieces. I would never have expected her to do this to me, and I also don't understand why she would be so lacking of self-love to just show herself to strangers like this. I asked her for explanation multiple times yesterday and got different responses. Her story is this. She was wearing no bra but wanted to swim and didn't want to wet her t-shirt, so she borrowed a shirt from one of the guys. She said that she closed the shirt and it just happened that the picture was taken meanwhile she was closing it. This makes no sense because she was actively posing in the picture and making a face for the camera. Later, she told me that she was upset for our discussions about cohabitation and wanted to do something reckless to forget about our problems for a while. I sent her away on a train this morning and told her I want to spend my vacation alone and told her I'm considering breaking up. Right before she hopped on the train, we both started crying and I held her in my arms for a couple of minutes. I feel what she's done justifies breaking up. Also, I'm not sure if those pictures show everything or are just the tip of the iceberg. However, it's very difficult for me to break up. Our relationship has been perfect up to this time. We shared a lot of intense moments together, thought she was the love of my life and always loyal to me, was planning everything for a future together. Those have been 5 beautiful years and it's hard to imagine my life without her. However, this thing came as a punch to my stomach and I don't feel I can trust her anymore afterwards. Is there a way to recover or are we done for? I'm hating her for what she has done to me, but I'm terrified of losing her and would feel miserable without her. When I told her I'm considering breaking up, she said she would do everything in the world to get back with me, that I'm all her life and that she's ashamed of what she did. One additional issue. We have already paid for a travel to Japan together later this year and can't get the money back. I want to go with her anyway. Am I being too soft? How should I handle it? Alright, so he's asking if he's being too soft. And look, I want to be honest here. The Japan trip question is not the main issue. The main issue is that he already knows something feels off. You don't send someone home on a train and cry at a station if things are fine. He's not asking whether to stay or go. He's asking someone to tell him it's okay to stay. And I get it. 5 years is heavy, but the story she told you changed twice in one conversation. That's not a slip. That's someone recalibrating in real time. Let's look at the comments. Comment 1. No one has a perfect 5-year long-distance relationship, and I seriously doubt they've ever sat down and established boundaries. The fact that you are long-distance relationship, why are you both taking separate vacations? Not wanting to live together is understandable. That is a huge step, regardless of the length of the relationship when you haven't been in that situation before. I would say that there is a lot that you two don't know about each other and each other's lives. There is a huge difference between seeing each other hours a day every day and then moving in together, and seeing each other much less, then trying living together. Overall, you two need to sit down and talk about everything. The direction of your lives, goals, what you expect from a partner, etc. But at the end of the day, only you can decide if you want to know and forgive whatever's been going on so far. Comment 2. Dude, there is a metric fuck ton that you don't know. She showed her tits because she didn't want to live together? Right. And that was her second story. Was the picture of her leaning on the guy even in the pics she showed you? Comment 3. So many things to unpack here. She immediately locked the phone and then showed you an hour later. I'm willing to bet that in that hour she deleted more incriminating photos. She chose to act recklessly after not liking how your conversation about moving in with her went. I doubt that stopped at being topless around those guys. Did you end up getting a close look at the photo of her leaning against that guy? Was it his shirt? Was she topless in that photo? That one is far more intimate than posing with the shirt open one, in my opinion. She rents a house with a male flatmate and doesn't want you there. You see how that looks, right? Again, not surprised at all if they're fucking. How well do you know that guy? How does he treat you? None of this looks good. At all. Honestly, I think you need to call time on this one and focus on you. As for the Japan trip, that money is spent whether you go or not. Personally, I would not. Not with her, anyway. Maybe you can end things amicably enough that one of you can buy the other one out. Sorry, dude, but I don't see a future here. Comment 4. Trust and communication are key to any relationship. It sounds like you guys barely talk, don't go on vacations together, and don't trust each other with your thoughts and actions. It's not a question of what to do with your relationship at this point, but more of a realization that you've been nothing but friends with benefits. Comment 5. I think you two are just at different points in life. You seem to want to settle a bit, and she wants to remain young and free. I personally dislike your comment about her not loving herself enough to cover her breasts. A woman can love herself 110% no matter how she dresses or what parts of her body she shows off. But, that being said, you two clearly just don't have the same standards. This comment made me think. The bit about self-love. Opie said he doesn't understand why she'd lack self-love enough to do this, and this commenter pushes back on that framing, and honestly, they're not wrong. A woman being topless doesn't mean she doesn't value herself. But, and this is the big but, the context here isn't just about nudity, it's about judgment. It's about lying. It's about doing something you clearly knew your partner would not be okay with and then changing your story when confronted. That's the part that matters. With that said, it's time to turn the page and see what's in store for the next story. This post was written by TinyCommon1864 7 months ago, and their tagline is, "My 25M girlfriend's 24F conventionally attractive friend, 23F, did a loyalty test on me. I'm not sure how to continue with our relationship. I, 25M, have been dating Becca, 24F, for 6 months now. Everything was going great until her birthday 2 months ago. Up until then, I'd met a couple of her friends, but just 1 or 2 at a time. This was the first time meeting a lot of her friends, and the first time I'd be hanging out with all of them in a big group. We had what I thought was a great night, until that night when I took Becca home. Becca asked me what I thought of her friend Sadie, 23F. I'd exchanged maybe 2 sentences with Sadie, so I just said that she seemed cool. Becca then asked me if I thought Sadie was pretty, to which I responded she was, but not nearly as pretty as Becca. I thought that was a safe answer because I didn't want to say her friend wasn't pretty, but I also wanted her to know that I only had eyes for her. But Becca was like, "So you do think she's pretty? I knew it. Pretty and cool." I didn't think much of this because Becca was quite intoxicated, so I just bought her some Gatorade and helped her get into bed. I figured Becca wouldn't remember this interaction the next morning, but she called me and apologized. She explained that Sadie was conventionally attractive and had a history of taking men that Becca wanted, and she didn't want that to happen to me. I assured her that wouldn't happen. I told her the honest truth, which was that with all the new faces I was seeing, I hardly remembered what Sadie looked like. I told her too that if Sadie kept going after men she knew Becca wanted, she should consider distancing herself from Sadie. Again, I thought that would be the end. But for the past 2 months, Sadie has somehow come up in every conversation. Did I follow Sadie's Instagram? Had I talked to Sadie since the party? Even when I give her a compliment, she brings up Sadie. Just last week, she got a new pair of jeans, and I told her how great her butt looked in them. And she went on this tirade about how she had to spend so much money just to get a pair of jeans that looked decent on her, while Sadie looked like a supermodel in Walmart jeans. I'm not that dumb. I know that Becca has complex underlying issues and that the Sadie fixation is just a manifestation of those issues. I don't want to invalidate her, but I get the sense that Sadie is not a problem so much as Becca's insecurities. I'm like a broken record with how often I remind her that she's hot and smart, and that she has a great life, a great job, and a great guy, if I do say so myself. And there's no reason for her to compare herself to Sadie or anyone else. That Walmart jeans are trash, but I'm sure she would look good in them if she really wanted some. I've suggested therapy, which she says is a waste. It seems like nothing I do helps. And I know it's her issue and not mine, but it's starting to drain me too. Okay, hold on. He's been reassuring her constantly, complimenting her, pointing out her insecurities are unfounded, and therapy is a waste. That's the one thing that could actually help here, and she's shutting it down. That's not a great sign because at that point, you're not looking for a solution. You're just looking for someone to keep feeding the reassurance loop. The breaking point came a couple of nights ago when I got an Instagram DM request from Sadie saying she thought I was cute and asking if I wanted to hang out sometime. This was basically followed by a series of DMs saying she knew I was with Becca, but she thought I could do better, and if I gave her a chance, she could show me what I was missing. Without responding, I took a screenshot and immediately blocked her. Then yesterday, I showed Becca the screenshot. I fully expected Becca to crash out, but instead, she kissed me and told me she knew she could trust me. I was confused, and she explained that she had Sadie DM me to prove my loyalty to her. Apparently, it is a common thing for women to do, especially if they have a conventionally attractive friend who could probably steal anyone's man. I was completely dumbfounded. I thought people only did this stuff in movies, not in real life. I asked Becca if all the anxiety over Sadie was real, or if she had faked that too. She said it was real, but now that she knows I'm loyal to her, she's not worried anymore. She tried to kiss me again, but I pulled away. This might have solved all of her problems, but it created a whole new set of problems for me. I gave her no reason to doubt my loyalty. I never even looked twice at Sadie. I did everything I could to show her how much I cared about her, but it took this fake DM for her to trust me. What if she made another hot friend do it? Or what if she thought one of my co-workers was conventionally attractive? Would we have to do this all over again? I told her I needed some space. Becca doesn't understand why I've been distant since yesterday. She seems to think everything is resolved since I proved my loyalty, but ironically, I think this may be the breaking point for me in the relationship. I really like Becca, but I can't be with someone who has zero faith in me. If I'm going to stay in a relationship with her, I need to communicate to her how deeply this affected me, and make sure that she knows not to do this again. How can I do this without invalidating her feelings and making her turn against me? TLDR, my girlfriend has been fixating on her friend who she thinks is much more attractive than she is. I have no interest in this friend, but she had her friend send me suggestive DMs as a loyalty test. This is making me question our relationship, and I need to effectively communicate to her that she hurt me without making her upset. Update. A lot of you have been asking for an update, so here's what happened the past few days. I read most of the comments, and a lot of people were telling me to drop her, ghost her. Some of you even told me to fuck Sadie. To be truthful, I was not planning on doing either of those things. Some of you were calling me spineless and saying I had no self-respect, but Becca had so many redeeming qualities despite the stupid test. I thought she was one of the kindest, smartest, most beautiful, driven people I knew, and even though we've only been dating for 6 months, she'd been there for me in ways none of my previous partners had. If there were other red flags, I would have just ended it, but there were none. Until yesterday. After a couple of days of minimal communication, Becca asked if we could meet up to talk. I had thought about how best to say I understood her anxiety, but that her behaviour wasn't acceptable, but I wound up not having to say anything because she apologised. She told me a lot of things about herself, and that she knew what she did was wrong, but also hoped I would understand why she acted that way. It was the first time she'd gotten candid with me about this. For her privacy, I won't go into detail, but let's just say that she's been through a lot, and that more than explains, but not excuses, her behaviour. She even showed me that she had booked an appointment with a therapist. I was ready to put this past us, but she let it slip that the account that DM'd me was not actually Sadie, but a bot account she made to impersonate Sadie, and that Sadie had no idea those DMs were sent. This was so appalling to me that I ended things on the spot. I can handle anxiety and other mental health issues, but to impersonate someone online is something I can't move past. Becca tried calling me and texting me a couple of times afterwards, but she stopped. Even through her delusion, I think she knows it's over. Genuinely, I wish the best for her. She has some great qualities, but she is seriously messed up in so many ways. I hope she gets the help she needs, but I can't help her anymore. Comment 1. You can tell her that while you may have passed her loyalty test, she failed your don't play stupid mind games with your partner test. Comment 2. This is the way. Honestly, having a conversation with, I'm glad you realize that I am committed to you and have been only focused on you. I am, however, very troubled that you play mind games and involve your friends to test me instead of talking to me about your feelings. These are childish games that makes me think that you are not ready for a relationship built on honesty and vulnerability. Mind games breaks the trust, and once broken, it's very hard to mend. Comment 3. Remember how you said therapy was a waste? I strongly disagree. In fact, I can't see a way for us to move forward without it, and even then, I can't promise I'll be able to get past you thinking this was a good and appropriate way to deal with your insecurities. She can feel whatever feelings she wants. You don't need to validate or coddle them, and if she still refuses to admit she's done anything wrong, then don't waste any further time trying to explain to her, just move on. And this is the move right here. Don't just say, that hurt me. Actually connect it to what needs to happen next. Because she has a pattern. The Sadie fixation, rejecting therapy, now running a secret test, none of that gets fixed with another reassurance from him. That just delays it. Comment 4. I cannot speak for women of your generation, but it was certainly not common back in my day. In testing your loyalty in this manner, she's proven herself as duplicitous and untrustworthy. I cannot imagine why she'd think this was advisable. She needs therapy. And honestly, this is just a bad idea regardless of when you were born. Look, the core of this is all pretty simple. If you can't ask your partner, are you faithful to me, out loud, as a real conversation, then you're not ready to be in a relationship. Running a fake DM test, impersonating a friend, that's not love, that's fear. It's dressed up as a strategy. And fear doesn't go away just because someone passes. It just finds the next text. Okay, now let's move on to the next story. I discovered my ex-husband has been seeing my sister for the last year. So yeah, I needed to get this off my chest. It's thrown me for a loop. I was with my husband since I was 21. We got divorced 2.5 years ago. We just grew apart and mutually agreed that the best thing for us was to go our separate ways. It was relatively amicable as these things go. We have 3 boys, 22, 19, and 16. My sister is also in the process of a divorce. Her soon-to-be ex was cheating on her with a co-worker of his. My sister has 2 kids, 10M and 6F. Apparently, one night last year after my cousin's birthday party, the two of them ended up having sex. I remember the night because my sister showed up in a very revealing outfit and was turning heads all night. Little did I know one of the heads she turned belonged to my ex-husband. They've been sleeping together on and off ever since. I know they're both adults and neither is in a relationship, but it still seems weird to me and I don't understand why my sister would go there. For that matter, I don't understand why my ex would do this. He's a really attractive man. He always has been. He shouldn't have trouble finding a woman to date, and yet he chose my sister? Perhaps he's more angry about our divorce than I thought. My niece mentioned to me that he's been around with mommy a lot, so I asked about it, and he just flat out admitted what's been going on. When I confronted my sister, she didn't even try to deny it, and said they're both adults, and that they're not hurting anyone. According to her, it's just sexual, and there are no intentions of them being together as a couple. I don't know why this has bothered me so much. Maybe because when I met my husband, we were in college and my sister was in elementary school. Were they looking at each other while they were both married? I asked both of them if they ever messed around while we were married, and they both denied it. Maybe I'm foolish, but I believe them. Comments. Jabroni. Sounds terrible for you. Having shitty siblings is hard. Good luck. OP. Thanks. We were never super close because of the age difference, but this is something I never expected could happen. I'm more disappointed in my ex, to be honest. My sister was always a spoiled brat who wanted her way no matter what. I don't know what is going through his mind, though. Fruit cotton candy. This is disturbing that 1. Your sister is sleeping with the father of your children, and 2. Your sister is sleeping with the uncle of her children. That's not okay. OP. Her kids are so young. I doubt they have any idea of what's going on. All they seem to know is that their uncle comes around from time to time. What a great Easter this turned out to be. And the commenter makes a genuinely good point that I don't think OP has quite articulated yet. Her sister isn't just sleeping with her ex, she's sleeping with the father of her children, and her ex is sleeping with his kid's aunt. Like, those kids are going to have to sit with that reality at some point. That's not a small thing. Altruistic Pay 3414. Both of them are trash. I'm so sorry this is happening to you. Must be weird for your kids to have their dad hooking up with their aunt. OP. I'm pretty sure none of my boys are aware. Yet. Lisa Feff. I believe it's normal that this would bother anyone, because, as you mentioned, you asked if anything happened before between them. It would make anyone reevaluate past exchanges, possible red flags, etc. So to me, it's understandable to feel that way, even if you're okay with it. They could be telling the truth, and maybe you trust both of them before this. But that's why when this happens, an ex and a sibling having sex after, it makes it complicated. The not knowing if you've been a fool, been lied to, etc. Even if what they are doing is innocent and nothing happened in the past, they both should have thought about it too. Because if you're wondering this, others will too. It's just reality. And what if it does turn into a relationship, as most repeated sexual encounters do? It might be worth exploring this with a counsellor just so you have someone to talk to regularly. Just so you can get an alternative, third-party perspective, and an outlet for discussing this without other family and friends getting involved. OP. One reason I really don't believe they did anything while my husband and I were married is because while we were married, we both had access to each other's phones, computers, etc. It would have been nearly impossible for them to hide something like this while he and I were living together. As I posted, our divorce was basically because of two people who had grown apart, and to be honest, we weren't in love anymore. There was no anger or anything like that. We just agreed to go our separate ways. Update. I made a post on here a while ago about my ex-husband and sister sleeping together, and a lot had happened since then. I took some of the advice from the comments and have decided to no contact with my sister and low contact with my ex-husband, for the sake of our youngest, 16M, son. I called both of them over to my house and informed them of this, and that even if they thought that they weren't hurting anyone, they were hurting me, and it genuinely made me feel disgusted to think that they would choose each other out of everyone in the world. I said while I believe they never slept together while we were married, as they said, I don't believe that the thought was never there, and two people who claim to love me would never do this to me. I explained to my sister that even if they didn't plan for things to go beyond sex, that the fact that she would do this to me meant I could no longer have contact with her or her children, because if it ever became something more, I would be even more hurt that she was doing that to me. I told my ex that I would like to only communicate through a parenting app, which some of you suggested, until our youngest was of age. Then I would be a minimal contact as possible from then on. I asked him if he was doing this to hurt me, which he denied. I asked how long he had these feelings for my sister, and he said it just happened. I talked to my kids about this, not to turn them against their father, but to inform them of my reasons for going no contact and low contact with their aunt and father, and so they can make their own decision and talk about how they feel. All three were livid and have talked about going no contact with their father as well, but I encouraged them to take time and think about it, and to not think they needed to do this just because I was. As you can imagine, a 19-year-old and a 16-year-old are not the best at keeping secrets, so word got around the family and in the town we live in, which is fairly small. Apparently a lot of other people thought that this relationship was wrong as well. Something I never expected, though, was the reaction from my parents. My father went off on my sister asking how she could do this. Why would she do this? My mother was more concerned about the age gap. As I said, when my ex and I were in college, my sister was in elementary school. They informed her that as long as she continued this relationship with my ex, he nor she were welcome in their home. Also, people have started to speculate that they were sleeping together before either of our divorces, and saying that this is the reason her husband was cheating on her, and may have been the reason for mine and my ex's as well. Like I said, I choose to believe them when they said they didn't, but I guess you never know. They attempted to defend themselves for a while, but eventually they cut contact and began avoiding each other like the plague. I guess in an attempt to curb any more weird looks or snide comments about them being a home wrecker and a creep. My sister did give me somewhat of an apology, saying she really didn't think that I would have minded since we ended on okay terms, which I don't fully believe because they went out of their way to keep it a secret, but I informed her that I am still sticking to being no contact with her for the time being. My ex's relationship with our sons is still strained. He asked if I could speak to them, but seeing as the oldest are adults, there isn't much I can do. Our 16-year-old still visits with his father once a month if he wants, but most of the time he doesn't, and we both agreed he's old enough to make the choice himself. So that's pretty much it. I still don't know how I feel about all of this. It sucks that I can no longer see my sister the same way, and that my children's relationship with their father has come to this. But I guess this is my life now. There is still so much about the situation that I want to know, but may never know, and maybe that's for the best. Thank you for all those who commented on the original post and for the words of encouragement. You all really helped me realize that what they were doing was wrong, and for myself, I didn't need them in my life. Alright, 5.5 months later, and she followed through. Sat them both down, laid her boundaries out, and stuck to it. That takes guts. And the line that hit me the most, I don't believe the thought was never there. That's the real betrayal. Not just what they did, but the complete absence of consideration for her. Anyway, let's see what the comments had to say. Comments. Buster Scruggs, downvoted. I'm confused. You were able to talk to your adult kids to tell them how to no contact with their dad, but when he asked if you could talk to them because their relationship is now fucked, you're like, they're adults, I can't do anything. Lol. OP. I wanted to explain to them why I was going no contact, low contact with their father. As I said, we have had a pretty okay relationship after the divorce, and this was a drastic change, especially for my youngest, and I didn't want to just leave them in the dark. Perhaps I could have talked about it with my ex present, but that just isn't how it happened, and I can admit that I may have jumped the gun. That being said, I can't force them to listen or reach out to their father. I have already told them that they didn't need to feel like they had to cut him off. One commenter said something similar to them, as they said something about calling their aunt stepmom or being brother cousins, and some other sort of Sweet Home Alabama type things. My oldest was more caught up on the age difference, as there are photos of my ex and sister when she was little and we were in college and she was still small. They are their own people and have their own beliefs on what they think is right and wrong. So no, I'm not going to force her to sit down with their father. I have made it clear they are free to have their own opinion and can choose who they want in their lives, and I'm not going to take the choice away. Perhaps one day they will reconcile, but that will be up to them. Comment 1. I wouldn't care if my sister had been divorced from her husband for 20 years. That's my sister's ex, and I'm not going there with him ever. A sibling's partner or ex-partner is the most off-limits person in the world. Comment 2. I feel like not enough is being said about how OP's ex was sleeping with a woman he knew since she was in elementary school. No real evidence of grooming or abuse or power dynamics, but just very gross. Comment 3. They knew they were dead wrong. I am from the school of you don't sleep with any of your friends' exes, and that is even truer for blood relatives. That's just nasty. And what about the kids? Ex thought his sons would be cool with him banging their mom's sister? Sister's kids seeing their uncle with their mom? That would be confusing for them. Not to mention their aunt and cousins would probably stay away. How selfish can they be? I'm glad the family stood their ground and OP took a stand. So where does this leave us? I think OP handled this with a lot of grace, honestly. She didn't blow up publicly. She didn't try to punish anyone through her kids. She gave them both a chance to explain themselves. And then she made a decision about what she needed. That's not drama. That's self-preservation. If this story resonated with you, drop your thoughts in the comments. I genuinely love to know where you land on this one. And if you're new here, please feel free to like and subscribe so you don't miss the next one. I'll catch you in the next story.